Now, when you make this at home, this is something that you want to let rest for at least 15 minutes. In 15 minutes, one of the things that you will notice is that the tomatoes will absorb the flavor, a little bit of water will leak out. Nothing wrong with that, but you know now that when you bite into the tomatoes, they have this package of flavor. This is not, and I want to make sure that you understand, a Sicilian tradition. Sicilians eat tomatoes in summer, and what we get is fantastic. This is how we get non-Sicilian tomatoes to taste good all year round. Let's talk about another little bit of trick. Red onions. I find red onions to be my favorite onions for this particular salad, but they have a very sharp, very aggressive taste. How can we somehow smooth over the taste? I find that if you place them in a marinade of vinegar, red wine vinegar, and a little bit of water, which we have mixed in this bowl right here, and you let them sit for about 15-20 minutes, and then after 15-20 minutes, you take it out, you wash them real well, you dry them real well, they will look like this. What is the advantage that you have in doing so? The onions become sweeter, softer, with a rounder flavor. Wonderful to be had. So this is also very important. Let's talk about a couple of other ingredients. I was talking to a friend of mine. I've known her for a long time. She's a delightful lady. And she was saying to me, you know, Nick, I love this recipe of yours, but the capers, they're too salty. I said, how do you treat the capers? Oh, I open the jar and I pour it with the brine right on top of the food. I go, oh, whoa, stop. What are you talking about? What you got to do, first and foremost, when you use the capers, like these guys, you put them in a bowl. You wash them. Yes, you got to wash them. The washing process takes away the excess salt, takes away the brine, and the flavor comes out without being so aggressive, so harsh. Very important that you do that. While we have the capers, let's talk about the black olives. This, I must confess, is not the way in which it's done traditionally in Sicily. This old salad is served in a big bowl, family style, and the olives have the pit in it. I don't know about you, but I cannot tell you how many times I almost broke a tooth because I did not think about the pit. So what I do in this particular case, I pit every single olive, and then, as you can see, I cut it in half. This will make it easier for the assembly and also will make it much more pleasant for your dinner guests. Think of yourself as if you're providing a series of small luxuries to the people that come and interact with your food. If you think in that form, you will make everybody happy. Now, I'm about to share with you a secret. Nobody's around, I'll tell you then. Watch this because it's unbelievable. You see this? This tuna right here, it's unique. This is called ventresca. I'm gonna turn the jar. Usually they come in jar like this or in cans, similar like this, but do you see the striation? Ventresca comes from the Italian word, which means ventre, which means tummy. It's also called in Japanese toro. It is the richest part of the tuna. It has a lot of striation, it has a great deal of fat, and when they're packed into extra virgin olive oil just like this and they simmer over a long period of time, the fat renders out and the tuna is splendid. I want to show you exactly what the tuna looks like once we take it out. Look at this. Absolutely gorgeous. You have no idea. This is tuna like you never had. It costs at least twice as much, in some market 3 times as much. They come from Sicily, mostly the southern part of Italy. They come from Spain, Portugal. It's great. Very expensive, but trust me, it's one of those things where it's worthwhile for you to invest your money in. Now, let's put together the vinaigrette. This one is going to be easy. It's going to take no time at all. A little bit of vinegar. Together with the vinegar, we do a little bit of basil and a little bit of parsley. Then get the best quality of extra virgin olive oil that you have on hand. And this process that we're doing right now is a process called emulsion. In this process, what we're doing truly is the vinegar is mixing with the extra virgin olive oil, and by whisking it about, we are introducing air into this flow. The air that we're introducing to the flow, as you can see, is making it look nice and thick. At this point, what I love to do is a touch of sea salt, a little bit of pepper, and if you feel like it and nobody's looking, a little bit of sugar. There you are. Ah, yes, yes, yes. We're just about ready. Now, let's assemble this dish. I have chosen a very elegant plate, and I'm saying, why? It's only tomatoes. I'm thinking, if you're gonna do something, do it good, or else don't do it at all. So I choose the better tomatoes. I choose the side that I like of the tomatoes. Look how delicately I do this. You know, my wife says, Nick, you're always exaggerating. And maybe I am, but it makes me feel better. This guy's too small. We'll put a bigger one. Now we start and we build it. The first thing that I want to do is to sprinkle it with the capers. I want you now to think in the fact that what you're doing is not just throwing ingredients in there, you are building flavor bases. Then we take the olives, and you just put the olives on top of each one of the tomato. Then a little bit more of the herbs that we used before, parsley and basil. Look fantastic. Now, let's go with the onions. The onions, you cover it just like this. Trust me, at this point, the onions are not as harsh as we had them before. They're nice and soft. And then take the tuna and treat this tuna as if it was the most expensive, most delicious thing ever, because it is. Put it right on top like this. These pieces of tuna, once you engage with them in your mouth, you will say, Stellino, we love you. You should, to begin with, not just because I've shown you this, because I love what I do and I like to share it with you. And then, it's the moment to decorate it. How do we do this? Take the dressing, let the dressing touch the tomatoes, touch everything. Don't be over forceful with this, just a little bit. What you want to make sure is that everything molds together. It is at this point that you fall in love with the things that you're making. Tuna, tomato, olive oil, and caper salad. And when people ask you, how is it possible that it tastes so good? You say to them, you know what? I know this guy. He's got an accent. It's kind of cute. But boy, can he cook. And that, of course, would be me. And there it is. It is an honor to have you with me here in my kitchen as we prepare grilled shrimp with stewed peppers and then a salad of tuna, ventresca, of course, tomatoes, capers, and olives. I hope that you will use these recipes, you will share with your friends, with your neighbors, with your family, and turn your home into your favorite restaurant. Until next time, ciao. Shrimp. I love everything about shrimp. The most important thing about shrimp is not just the flesh itself, is the shell. As a matter of fact, if I can give you a big word of advice, is when you shop for shrimp the next time that you do, make sure that you save the shells. What I like to do is to put them inside a plastic bag, put them in the freezer, and when I have enough, I make my own shrimp stock. You will love me for that alone. The other thing is how to handle shrimp, how to cook it. Depending on the size, the timing of the cooking varies, but the best way to go at it is with high heat, blasting it for a short period of time. To really bring out the flavor into the shrimp before you cook it is to brush it with a little bit of oil and then spice it up with your own favorite flavor mix of spices. Sugar, salt, pepper, yes, sugar works wonders. Paprika, onion powder, garlic powder, so that when you finally cook it into the oven or under the broiler, immediately all this flavoring become almost a crust-like. On top of it, many times you find yourself in need of small shrimp, but they're not available, and all that you can get is colossal shrimp. If that is the case, do not despair. Simply treat the shrimp as I told you, take the shell out, cut it in small pieces, and do whatever you need to do. Life is made of improvisation. It makes life a lot easier. Ciao, I am Nick Stellino, and I have selected for you two great recipes, comfort food. As a matter of fact, when the weather turns cold, this is exactly what you will want to make for your family and friends. Today, we'll make butternut squash soup with a confit of pepper asparagus and spicy sausage, followed by pea soup with a confit of peppers and shrimp. Please, join me in the kitchen. Spicy just right. I'm shopping for my favorite ingredient for the soup I want to demonstrate for you. This is a kind of winter squash, but it's not my favorite winter squash. My favorite winter squash is butternut squash. Butternut squash, the Latin name of which is Cucurbita moscata. Try to say that fast 10 times. Even I cannot do that. One of the great things that I love about it is it's very easy to cook. It has a flavor that's rich, dense. If we were, for example, to cut this, the inside of it would be orange. And the riper it gets, the more deep orange it gets. But it's not just the color that I like. It's not just the flavor that I like. Also, what it does have is an enormous flexibility on how you can actually use it in the kitchen. You can roast it, you can saute it, you can make the soup, as I will show you. But it's the health benefit that this particular vegetable does have. What I love about it is, first and foremost, an enormous amount of antioxidants, which are great for you. There's B6, potassium. Unbeknownst to me, as I was studying onto it, I discovered that a cup of this, taken on a daily basis, is your whole allowance of vitamin C. The thing that I love the most about it is how it responds with a unique yield of flavor to the different type of cooking that you do. If you were to experiment with this, one of the things that I propose is try different techniques. If you roast it, it will taste a certain way. If you saute it, it will taste a different way. If you cook it in the form of a soup with a sofrito underneath, and by the way, when I say sofrito, I mean a nice combination of onions, celery, carrots, which is at the base of every soup that we make, it will pick up a different type of flavor. It's the amazing dexterity that this particular vegetable has to respond to the different type of cooking and the yield that it brings back that I truly adore. Now, let's talk about storage. Most people buy this and they put it in the refrigerator. This is not something that you would want to do. When you buy this, keep it in a cool space, very well ventilated. And in this present form, uncut, it will stay nice and edible all the way for about 3 months. If you should find yourself needing a piece of it and cutting it, then you need to cover it with a little bit of plastic, put it inside the refrigerator. But at that point, you have no more than a week. The seeds on the inside are not edible. I would suggest that once you cut it open, get rid of the seeds, also because they're the first one to spoil. And then enjoy it in different techniques. I'm going to take this with me to the kitchen, and I'm going to show you step by step on how to make the most luxurious soup you've ever seen. Follow me in the kitchen. Butternut squash soup. I love that accent I have, with a confit of spicy sausage and peppers. Now, this is the butternut squash in its original form. When you see it at the supermarket, what we've done, we cut it, we peeled it, and we have diced it exactly like this. If you're lucky enough at your supermarket to find this already diced, and many supermarkets across the country do have it, do buy it. It saves you a ton of work. This soup, to me, is something that reminds me of comfort. I was talking to a friend of mine who I made it for, and what did she say? She said, it reminds me of a romantic walk through the countryside of Tuscany. And I kind of like it, in spite of the fact that I'm Sicilian. First and foremost, we start with some extra virgin olive oil. In the making of the soup, I want to treat this soup as something elegant. You have to realize that for the longest time, myself, I've always thought of soup as, what could I say, something boring. You know, I don't look at soup and say, oh, Mama, I'm going to have a soup. Soup to me is soup. When I think of soup, it's minestrone. When I was a little boy, my mom used to make soup for us because we had to eat vegetables. And to me, it meant that that day, we had no pasta. It made me very sad. Later on, I discovered, through the passion that I have for making sauces, the soup can be just as exciting as a sauce. You just have to think of creating a soup in the same flow, in the same manner in which you create a sauce. I'm going to walk you through it. I'll show you how to assemble it together, and you will feel the same excitement that I do as we get this going. So, in the olive oil that is now cooking, we add a little bit of carrots. Together with the carrots, also a little bit of celery. One point that I want to make that you really need to kind of grasp is, it doesn't matter to make these cuts too elegant. These cuts are called in French paysanne, which means like the farmer makes it. Nothing offensive about it. Truly, what that means is that ultimately this will braise in for a long, long time. And as it braises for a long time, it'll become nice and soft. Each one of them right now is bringing out the flavor of what truly creates the base. This is called il triumvirato, also known as il soffritto. These three ingredients are at the base of everything that we do. You want to stir them about as the heat is starting to build up. I don't want you to start with a super hot pan. I don't want to braise them. I don't want to burn them. I don't want to mark them. I don't want to caramelize. I want to come to the flavor together. It's like they're taking a walk, they're getting to be friends, they're getting to know each other. As they do that, we start to add other aspects of what makes this soup very interesting. The first thing is red pepper flakes. This, we gotta put it in. A little bit of heat, fantastic. You can put dry spices of anything that you want. I like thyme. You can even use oregano. I find that the thyme is much more interesting. It brings out, and I find that, by the way, dry thyme is even more flavorful than fresh thyme. I know that a lot of you will not disagree with me, but that's how I feel. Sage is the other thing. A whole leaf of sage or pieces of sage, just put it in there. Allow for this to come out. The sage is, to me, something sacred. Immediately makes me think of fall. You know, the comparison to a walk to the countryside of Tuscany, I think is ideal. I'm going to have to call Bridget and tell her that she really connected with this perfectly well. The other ingredient is something that we need to pay attention to. Garlic is essential. Garlic, in spite of the fact that it's a southern ingredient, mostly in the southern part of Italy, especially in Sicily, is something that needs to be handled in a certain fashion. What we have done, and you'll see exactly what I mean, as I added thick cut garlic. People are concerned about the thick cut garlic. They feel that ultimately It's going to be very difficult to digest. They're going to have problems biting into it. Remember, we're going to cook this for a long, long, long time. It's going to be braising through. And once we get to the point of 40 minutes of cooking, in the liquid that we're going to be adding, the garlic is going to be soft pulp. Now, brandy. You can use sherry if you don't have brandy handy, but I like to put a nice little deglaze at this point. Crank up the heat a little bit just so that we make this evaporate. Always be careful because when you add high alcohol spirits like this, they could flame up. As it happened to me before, sometimes you have to talk to my wife. She will tell you about the misadventures in the Stellino household, and a few of those do involve flaming up in the pan. Next thing you want to do is to add the butternut squash that we have cut in cubes exactly like this. And the next thing that you want to do is to add chicken stock. I prefer chicken stock. I find the chicken stock in the making of a soup has a much mellower flow, something that I truly come to love and enjoy. Bring this to a boil. Once it reaches to a boil, reduce the heat to a simmer and let it simmer for about 45 minutes. Well, as you can see, it's reduced down to exactly the consistency that we want. Now what we need to do is to process it down to a smooth finish. And here is my little friend, immersion blender. I love this. Check this out. Turn it on. There you go. This thing is very powerful. Do not be careless because it does a job that you will absolutely adore. Look at that. You want to do this for a few minutes until you get it down to the smooth consistency. You will come to love this piece of equipment. Now, once this is done, let me show you what it looks like exactly, because I want you to kind of lock up visually the consistency that we're going after. And here we have the soup that we have smoothed all the way through. We cooked it, and then we reduced it just for a couple of extra minutes. Look at this. Nice and pulpy, exactly the way in which it's supposed to be. Take a little taste. I am good. The next thing I want to show you is how to make the confit. The confit is made with a spicy sausage, which is a dry sausage. You can use linguica. You can use chorizo. You can use any type of sausage that you want. What we want to do is to bring out a flavor that just dances, and put a little bit of extra virgin olive oil in the pan. This confit to me was an idea because I was thinking the soup is great, but how about putting something into the soup that just makes everything dance, makes everything fly? So what I like to do is, while the pan is getting hot, I like to add the spicy sausage. Even Italian sausage would work, by the way. I just discovered the sausage lately. It's not part of my tradition, but it has a flavor to it, something that really elevates the food to the next level. The next thing I want you to see is how I cut the ingredients. This is very important. You need to look at it because otherwise it might change the way in which it does. The asparagus, very small rounds, as you can see. Even the florets of the asparagus cut very little. We did not parboil this. These are in the original form. The peppers, the onions. What I try to do is to have everything cut almost the same. I always tell you not to use chopped garlic. In this particular case, I like to have chopped garlic and chop very, very fine. It will be the last addition that we make to the dish. And for the fact that it will be the last addition, the heat that's retained by the ingredients will ultimately firm up the cooking of the garlic. And that's exactly where we want to go with that. And then red pepper flakes. Why? You say it's spicy already. You're dealing with a Sicilian. We like spicy, but don't exaggerate. I mean, come on. Don't make something just for yourself, especially if you have friends at home. Always check with other people if they do mind or they don't mind spicy food, because that could be a problem otherwise. So the next thing that we do, we add the other ingredients. Here we go with the asparagus, the red peppers, a little bit of the white onions. The fact that everything is cooked so fine, so small, really makes it so much easier for us to deal with, and you're going to enjoy that part of it. Look at that. Guarda, guarda che bellezza, eh sì. Let it cook on high heat for a few minutes until you see the asparagus and the onions to wilt down a little bit. Once it gets to the consistency that you like, the next thing that you want to do is add a little bit of brandy. Just a little bit. Una sfumatura. Una sfumatura means just a hint. And here is where things get to be interesting. Once you get to the point in which all the ingredients are now cooked for a few minutes together, the brandy has evaporated all the way through. Here's what I want you to do. Turn off the heat. Mind you, I'm doing it quite quickly at home. You want to do this for a few minutes until everything is cooked together. So the next thing that you want to do at that point is a little bit of cheese, a little bit of butter, and just a little bit of extra garlic. Then, in the heat that's retained in here, just mix everything together. Ay, ay, ay. Let it melt together. This is spectacular. Okay, the soup is ready. The confit is ready. Now I'm going to show you how to plate it. Now, the plating is very simple, and it's overly exaggerated because I like design. Look, when I serve it to myself, this is how I like to do it. Why? It makes me feel good. Let me show you how to do this, because I've done this for many parties that I've done for several of my clients, and they absolutely adore. What I've done with the soup, I add a little bit of extra stock right before I serve it, brought it to temperature. The reason why I do that is because it pours smoothly. Look at this. It's fabulous just to look at it. Now, the confit that we did before, right before I showed you how, I let the confit cool just a little bit. I want for the butter and the cheese to mix together and to create this beautiful mound right in the middle of it. And there you'll see what I do. And I like to put it right in the middle because once you engage with it and you start picking up these ingredients, the soup, the elements of the confit, all these things that mix together, forgive me, I had to do that. Now, a secret. This is called truffle oil. It's very expensive, but it's worth it. You don't use a whole lot of it, just a few drops. Look at this. You look at this and you say, this is Stellino's recipe for butternut squash soup with a confit of peppers, spicy sausages, and asparagus. Is it good? All you have to say is, it's a Stellino signature dish. You know it's good. And there it is. Peas. Most of us get their peas from the frozen section. Don't be discouraged. Frozen peas are fantastic. As a matter of fact, frozen peas, due to modern technology, they picked about 2 to 3 hours within the first picking. They're splendid. But there was a time when peas were not something that everybody could afford. As a matter of fact, Elizabeth I of England used to have peas in her diet all the time. She used to import them from Holland. Very expensive ingredient to have. They were considered to be as expensive as caviar. Peas name in Latin is Pisum sativum. Italians, by the way, invented the petit pois kind of peas. It's been known, actually proven through historical records, that Caterina de' Medici, when married Henry II in France and went to the king's court, not only brought with her a bunch of Italian chefs and all the techniques and pots and pans, but also several plants of petit pois, small peas, which as Italians we call piselli novelli. Of course, you talk to a French chef, you get a whole different story, but this is my show. I'm Italian, and I get away with it. What do I love about peas? I love the way they taste, I love how they feel, and I love what I can do with it. As a matter of fact, I want to show you a fantastic recipe, so follow me in the kitchen because I have something great to show you. Peas. This is the main actor in this drama that we call pea soup with a confit of pepper and shrimp. Bet you never heard of that before. To tell you the truth, it's nothing that you get every day. I like pea soup, but I always think soups, as always, are boring until I came up with this idea. And to make this pea soup and build it together like I like to build a sauce. I told you this story before. Well, in this case, we start with a little bit of olive oil that we put right here in a pan. And then we move, and once again, we start building this exactly as if it was a sauce. What does that mean? First and foremost, we go with the onions into the pan. Remember, you do not want to have the pan to be too hot. You do not want to scorch the veggies that we put them in there. Rather, we want to caress them with a little bit of heat. So we just added the celery and the carrots. In this case, you notice that I still maintain the same style of paisan, very simple, informal, different shapes. Ultimately, these ingredients, together with the broth that we will add later on and the peas, we'll let them simmer for a long time. And when we're done with the soup, when we process it, we'll just have them into a pulp. So the even cut of the ingredients is not that important in this case. It makes it a lot easier for you. It makes you relax. It lets you flow with it. You have to think about the fact that everything that we do kind of builds up a layer of flavor. And this layer of flavor is something of extreme importance because it permits us to bring this from a soup-like character more to a sauce-like character, which is what I love. So at this point, one of the things that I like to do is to add some red pepper flakes. Red pepper flakes are a fantastic way to have a uniform addition of heat. Also, a little bit of thyme. Thyme has become, for me, one of my favorite spices. I love the aroma that releases in the kitchen when you're using it. Stir this about just so that everything gets in together. I'm so sorry we do not have aroma flavor yet going through the lenses of the camera because you will be totally enthralled by it. This, however, what I'm adding next is the same story, garlic cut thick. Trust me, I tried this before with chopped garlic, but I find that when we add chopped garlic to some recipes like this that we want to cook for a long time, the garlic sometimes gets to the bottom of the pan, and because of the fact that the volume has been reduced so enormously, it might have a tendency to burn. Burnt garlic is very difficult to digest. Also, it does impart a most unpleasant flavor to anything. Think of garlic as a gentle soul that you have to coax out and bring into its flow. Let's go back to our peas. A lot of people are concerned, frozen peas, fresh is always the best. Nothing beats fresh. But frozen peas makes a great alternative. As a matter of fact, I want to go openly on television and confess to everybody that I do use frozen peas when I cannot get a hold of fresh peas. But before I actually add the peas, you got me so excited I almost forgot the ingredient. In my hand, I have brandy. You can use brandy, you can use sherry. I've also used sometimes Marsala wine, and if I don't have any of this, even something as basic as white wine will do for you. If you choose white wine, go with something that might be on the sweet side, like Gewürztraminer or Chenin Blanc. There you are. Now, when you add the brandy like this, be always very careful of the flaming possibilities of it because we're dealing with very high heat. Good. I'm going to reduce this down to a glaze. Once it reaches a glaze, and it's reduced completely, then we do add our peas. And this is the part that I love the most. The color of the peas is wonderful in the background of everything. It really gives you a very clear sense that we're moving in the right direction. Mix everything together and already they look beautiful. As a matter of fact, if you wanted to at this point, you could put everything into a baking dish, put it in an oven, preheat it at 500 degrees, and you would have the most fabulous melange of roasted veggies. There, I just give you a free recipe. How do you like that? You come from one, you get two. I know, I'm good that way. Next thing we add is chicken stock. I prefer chicken stock. If you do not want to have any chicken stock or beef stock, even vegetable stock would be fantastic. Bring this to a boil. Once it reaches a boil, then I want you to reduce the heat and I want you to simmer for about 45 minutes. Now, we have let this reduce to the proper consistency. As you can see, the volume is much lower. At this point, we want to use our immersion blender. I love this machine because it just does it for me. It makes me feel super. Watch what happens. I put it on the inside and look how quickly it changes. Now, it will take you a couple of moments. Well, no moments, a couple of minutes to get this done right. But once you do this, you will bring this down to the perfect consistency. What is it supposed to look like instead of making you wait all this time? Follow me. I have here what I refer to as the perfect consistency. And this is the pea soup that I like. Let me taste it. Fantastic. I love it. You could serve it like this, but not at a Stellino household. You say, why not? I like elegant, smooth, flowing things. One last step that I want you to consider is the straining of the soup. Be aware of one thing. Once you strain the soup, it will actually force you to lose almost a third of the volume. I'll give you a sample on this one. You have the strainer right placed right through it. I'll move this aside. Watch what happens. This is what you need, a spatula. The spatula allows you to push the pieces through. I did this for the first time with my nephew Andrew that's now taking a passion of cooking with me in the kitchen. As you can see the liquid going down and most of the pulp being left behind. This pulp, there's nothing wrong with it. It's fantastic. But what you're left with underneath, in my opinion, has such a luxurious, silky-like feeling that is unbelievable. So we'll put this aside. Once you strained it all, what I want you to do is to cook it on high heat and just reduce it a little bit more to give it the kind of thickness that you want. Now, let's look at the ingredients that make the confit, because this confit is not the same as before. No, this is different. What we're going to mix here is chopped shrimp together with chopped pork bacon together with peppers that we cut very finely. It takes place in a quick moment. One of the things that you want to be concerned about is to cook fast and quick, because this thing will go from cooked to burn quite quickly. Pay attention to what you do. Do not get distracted. First addition, bacon, chopped bacon that we put right in here. Remember, put a little bit because the bacon will release a great deal of its own juices. Then chopped shrimp. I love the shrimp addition. Bacon and shrimp is one of those combos which I discovered by mistake, and it's just fantastic. A little bit of the yellow peppers, then we go with the red peppers. You can choose any combination of colors that you want. Even green, not a problem. The onion, finely chopped as well. And then at this point, a little bit of the chopped garlic. This will cook in no time at all. You'll see the shrimp cooking before your eyes, moving from white to red. One of the things that I tell everybody is to make sure that when you do this, to spread it around and have high heat underneath the pan to get the look, the feel, the taste of everything that you have exactly where you want it. Just a little bit of salt at the very end to make sure that all the flavors are amalgamated with flavor. A little splash of brandy. Let the flame die down. The last thing that we need to do is the addition of butter. And at this point, what I want you to do is to completely turn off the heat underneath. Together with the butter, just a touch of Parmesan cheese, and let all the ingredients mix together. So, we have the soup ready, which we strained already. The confit is ready here. All that we have left to do is to assemble the dish, and that in itself is a wonderful artsy preparation. Let me show you how. Plating this is a work of art. First, let me make sure that the taste is exactly what I like it. Fantastic, fantastic. Just a perfect flavoring. So here we go into our bowl. There you are. And now we go with the topping. And the topping is what I love the most. There you are. Every bite that you will take, every spoonful of this, you will have a little bit of the confit coming together with the soup underneath. And this is the combination that makes it. You might say to yourself, this is a masterpiece. And I'll simply say, no, this is simply pea soup with a confit of peppers and shrimp. And then the last touch, a little bit of truffle oil going all the way around to make this even more regal. My gosh, it's beautiful. But of course, it's my recipe. And there it is. Thank you for joining me. It was a pleasure to share with you these wonderful recipes. A wonderful butternut squash soup with a confit of spicy sausages and asparagus. And then pea soup with a confit of bacon and shrimp. Hope you'll share this with your family and friends, and I hope that you will use these to turn your home into your favorite restaurant. Until next time, ciao. I love sausages. What I love about sausages is the way they taste. And I love to come here to my favorite butcher because he makes it with love. This is an old family recipe that's been in the family for many, many years. He makes all sorts of sausages, anywhere from kielbasa, chorizo, Italian-style sausages. And by the way, you should be aware of the fact that just about any Italian-style sausage that you find anywhere in the country is based on a Sicilian recipe. Us Sicilians like to feel that way. Why is it so? Fennel seed. Fennel seed is what makes the sweet sausage. Difference between sweet sausage and hot sausage is the addition of peperoncino rosso, red pepper flakes that gives it a little bit of fire. You also need to have a good amount of fat in a sausage to make sure that when the sausage cooks, it does not dry out. Pork, obviously, is the meat of choice. Butt or the shoulder is what they're used. These sausages are fantastic. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna get them all wrapped up and take it with me to the kitchen to create something special for you. Ciao, I am Nick Stellino. I don't know if you know this, but when I have a cocktail, my favorite cocktail, it's a martini, just like James Bond. So I decided to make something special for you today, something inspired by my favorite cocktail, and that is New York steak with a vodka martini sauce, and then pears in a marsala wine sauce. Please, join me in the kitchen. Spicy, just right. I'm here today with my favorite butcher, Russell. Came here to pick up a few New York steak for this recipe that I want to make, but Russell wanted to teach me something about the way in which I've been shopping for meat all the time, and specifically regarding the color of the meat. Russell, you're showing me here different cuts of meat, and one thing that I noticed is that this New York is not as dark as this other pieces of meat that you have. You said that this is oxidized, right?
Exactly. That's all it's doing is the meat is oxidizing, and it just adds to the flavor and tenderness.
So the darker color of meat that I see occasionally, you actually telling me that the flavor is better, the oxidation brings out all...
Definitely.
How come I never see it on your thing?
This is what I take home for dinner.
You see, this is what you discover when you ask the right questions. People like this, they keep the best for themselves. Russell, This steak over here, do you have any of them that are oxidized, even slightly oxidized?
You gonna take my dinner from me?
Yes, I will.
Yeah, I'll get you some.
He's gonna go get me those steaks. You know, in life, as in everything else, you learn every day. And one of the most important things in the shopping for meat is to make sure that you have this constant relationship with a butcher who can guide you, especially from some informations that we might have already predetermined in our head, which are not necessarily the correct one. The meat that is more flavor and how when it's aged it brings out this incredible taste, especially if you're a meat eater. Today, these steaks that he's getting from me from the back are the ones that I will cook for you, and you will see what a fantastic recipe that is. Steaks and martini, two of my favorite things. As a matter of fact, these things are so favorite of mine. Every time I travel, I always like to have a steak dinner to celebrate something great. And when I get home, after I hug my wife, after I play with my kittens, one of the things that I love to do in the evening is to have a martini with my wife. By the way, you should know my wife hates martinis. She does not like that as a cocktail, but she is the best martini maker ever. Of any bar, of any hotel, anywhere I go in the world, she's the best. Honey, you're fantastic. So one time I said, why don't I make something actually that's inspired steak, martini. I said to myself, steak with a martini sauce. How about that? So this is something that came out one day. I did a couple of tries to make sure that all the elements would come together, and the result I'm going to show you right now. As usual, we start with a nice pan, extra virgin olive oil in it, and remember, we're building this as a sauce, so it's a blossoming of ingredients that we put in. Celery, and you'll notice that these ingredients are cut roughly because ultimately we will strain the sauce. Then we go with carrots and with white onions. Sometimes I feel to make it a little bit more elegant, and instead of white onions, what I use are shallots. Shallots have a little bit more of a sophisticated flavor to it. When you do this at home, I want you to cook on medium-low heat this ingredient and do it for about 3 to 4 minutes. One of the things that I find when you cook with medium-low heat is that the flavors themselves blossom, they open up inside the context of the sauce, creating a structure, creating a foundation that really builds upon. Now, as I was thinking about it, how do I get to this whole thing? How do I give it the flow, the body? And one of the things that I fell in love with is, why don't we put some bacon in there? You know, actually what happened, I had pepper bacon in the house. I didn't know what to do with it. I have it for breakfast every once in a while. I said, how about we put some pepper bacon? You can use any kind of bacon you want. But bacon with its presence, with its fat, pork, by the way, to me is another one of my favorite meats. The bacon, as you add in this particular case, is going to elongate, expand the flavoring that this sauce does have. The important thing is also to realize how do you bring out other elements that continue this build-up on. It's like building a little house. So you can go with any spices that you want, but if you want to make it my way, next thing that I do is a nice bit of fresh parsley on it. Always, I like to add the fresh herbs in here because the herbs are not for decoration, it is not for garnish. Ultimately, once we cook the sauce, we will strain the sauce, so this parsley will go away. But if you put it early into the process, the parsley, as it cooks together with the other ingredients, is going to give us this one. Look at these hands, amazing. I know. One time, my wife told me that the only way she can shut me up is by making me stand still like this. If you ever see a family photograph of me standing still, I look like a doofus. Not that I don't look like a doofus now, but that is the extreme. Let's move on to the next few things because she tells me also talk too much. Lemon juice. I added lemon juice because when I tried this the first time, I was looking for a bit of tartness that would kind of bring it in. So, and I have this little tree in my backyard, a lemon tree, which is absolutely pathetic looking, but it puts out the most incredible lemons. I refuse to take the tree out. It's got character. Cook it with the lemon juice. You see what happens when you put wonderful fresh lemon juice? It reduces. It gives it a glossiness and an imprint of what is to come next. And what's to come next at this point, I like to add, is the garlic. Chopped fairly thickly. Doesn't need to be. Do not put chopped fine garlic, because if you put chopped fine garlic at this point, one of the risks that we have is as we continue to cook the sauce, that if it's chopped too fine, it may actually burn and turn the sauce to the other side. Now here it comes. It is true. And we got to confess this without making any excuses that the true martini is made with gin. That's it. However, James Bond has it with vodka. And you know, there was one of the greatest movies ever that I saw. My name is James, James Bond. No, wait, he says, in Italian, in truth, we say, mio nome è Giacomo Bondi. In English, my name is Bond, James Bond. And he likes it shaken, not stirred. You have no idea how much fun I have. Every time I go to a bar, I recite the line. So, to me, a vodka martini tastes better. Is it the right way to do it? Truly, it's not the original way, but it's the version that I like. So here we go. A little bit of vodka and a little bit of vermouth. Now, when you do this at home, remember you're cooking with high heat. One of the things that you want to do is make sure that you watch for the flame that could come anytime. You want to reduce this down by half so that the liquid has mostly evaporated. Once the liquid has reduced by half, the next thing that I want you to do is to add the chicken stock. The last ingredient that I put is more for color and to continue the flow of the sauce. Remember I told you a sauce is like building a house where you have to think of what room, what is going to be the TV room, what is the bedroom, what is the view. To me, this tomato sauce brings this whole thing into completion, and this is exactly what I'm doing right now. You add the tomato sauce. Now, at this point, you bring this sauce to a boil. Once it reaches a boil, I want you to reduce it down to a simmer. You let this simmer for 45 minutes. So you go from this look to a darker, deeper, more reduced volume. And this is what you will have right before we strain the sauce. So the sauce is ready now, but we will strain it later. Let's go back and talk about the steaks. Dry aged steaks are the most expensive ones and the best steaks to be had. The problem is that when you look at them, they don't look all that pretty. As a matter of fact, you see these dark spots. This is what happens in the aging of the steaks. This is a New York cut. You can choose any cut that you want. New York is my favorite. So now we go, ooh, look at this. I have my own martini. I think I should take a moment to reflect on what I'm doing next. What a bouquet. I love this martini. Forgive me. Fantastic. I will finish this later. Now we go with the steak. First thing I like to do, always brush the steak that you want to cook with a little bit of olive oil. Then, here's where a lot of people go, just a little bit will do. If you're gonna put salt on a steak this size, you gotta put salt. Don't hold back. And pepper, because this particular flavoring is the first thing that you will interact once you start tasting the steak. So, we turn the steak on the other side. We do the same exact thing. Here we go. And there, once again, with a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. The pan, I have a grill pan. You can do this on the barbecue at home. I believe that barbecue steaks are the best steaks, but if it's in winter time and it's snowing outside, if it's winter time and it's raining outside, barbecuing might not be an option that you have open. If you're using grill pans at home, learn how to use the grill pans. You always want to put another pan on top of the pan that you're about to use so that the heat is properly contained within the two pans and it gets to the temperature you want right away. So here it is. I'm going to move this aside. And here we go with our steak. Now, we are ready to flip it. There you are. I like to cook the steak until it's medium rare. That's my preference when it comes to a New York steak, but you can have it done whichever way you want. The steak is looking absolutely fantastic, and I cannot wait to dive right into it. So let's see. The sauce is ready. The steak is gonna cook for a little while longer. And how about that? I'm gonna show you exactly how to plate it and how to do a little bit of trick with the olives that we use for decoration. This, you're going to like. The steak, after you cook it to whatever doneness you like, you have to let it rest. 5 minutes. What happens, all the juices inside the steak will redistribute themselves, and by the time you get to it, after 5 minutes, it will be so much more tender. You will thank me for this. You have to be patient. Trust me when I tell you, in all the fine restaurants, that's exactly what they do. They never take it off the grill, boom, and put it right on your plate. The steak is too tough at that point. So let's move this aside for just a second. I'll let it rest for a moment. I want to show you something that it's actually fun. It is not essential to the recipe, but it is fun for the making of the recipe. A nice, sharp paring knife. These are pimento olives that you find just about anywhere at your local supermarket. Choose whatever brand you like. This is what I like to do. The first cut is a sacrificial cut. Then, as thin as you can possibly go, make this little tiny round, just like this. This is just for decoration. It's not going to add any extra flavor to it, but it's one of those things that's going to make the decoration of the steak absolutely delightful. The one thing that I want to show you is how to handle this part. If you're cooking for a large crowd, if you find yourself in the making of a party where you want to have all these dishes looking exactly perfect, one of the things that I find is it's helpful when you actually cut all these ahead of time. Preparation, preparation, preparation. Think in certain way, what I always say to my friends is think backward. What you're going to be doing. Now you got the food, it's ready to go, and you want to decorate something. If you spend too much time decorating the plate, by the time the plate comes out, the food is going to be cold. So here's what we're going to do. We cut everything, we put it on the plate. We already have a plate here ready to go for the plating of our steak. This is the plate that I chose. I'm going to place it right here. Roasted carrots, takes nothing to do those. You peel the carrots, put it in the oven, you roast them. That's it, salt and pepper. And then spinach, saute spinach. You know how easy that is. The one thing that we want to do is to place the steak. How do we place the steak? You can place it any which way you want to. One of the things that I like to do is to place it almost on top of the ingredients to give it some height. It makes it fun. Here is the part that I love the most. This is a sauce. We have strained the sauce, and then we reduce the sauce a little bit more, and just add a little dollop of softened butter to give it a sheen. So here we go with the sauce. Look at this. Mamma mia. This is the part of dinner that I love the most, just presenting the sauce. Guarda che bellezza. Te lo devo dire, guarda. Infatti adesso I'm going to taste the sauce. The perfect consistency. And then, just like a little boy playing with little toy soldiers, here we go with the little slices of... I know, I'm ridiculous, but I love this. So, here it is, New York steak with a vodka martini sauce. And there it is. Well, you might not know this about this gentleman, but he is an economist by trade. However, he's also known as one of the most reputable authorities when it comes down to pears and apples. So I will be asking some information as to how do you know when this pear is actually ready to be picked? Because you're telling me that the pear has to be picked green and then...
Ripens in the house.
Okay.
Anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks afterwards.
Well, you also were very specific about the technique, as you were trying to teach me before, and I would like for my viewers to also learn when you were speaking to me. Show me exactly, step by step, how they should do it when they do this at home.
You don't do this for apples, but for pears, what you want to do is you want to find out when the stem is ready to be broken off. And the way you do that is you basically take all the weight off, turning it about 90 degrees, and then giving it a twist. And if it's ready, it comes right off, it'll break. If it's not, it needs a few days.
Well, that's one of the most important things that people really don't realize, and this was a huge mistake that I've always made. I assumed that the pears had to actually completely be ripe on the branch, and then, like tomatoes, put into the cart and brought to market. This is something different, but I noticed that you personally chose pears as the way to go. Is it very difficult to grow pears?
Pears are actually pretty easy to grow. They want to grow vertically very fast.
So the growth and the satisfaction that somebody would get from growing them, it's actually quite rewarding.
Actually quicker than apples.
Well, I thank you for this wonderful basket that you gave me. I'm going to take this home because I got a few recipes that I want to put together. It was an absolute delight meeting you, and thank you for the lesson. I will keep it in mind once I plant my own trees. Arrivederci. Grazie.
Thank you.
And this pear is absolutely fantastic. I'm telling you, this dessert, pear with marsala sauce, you are going to love it. Basically what it is, we are braising the pears in marsala. Marsala is a Sicilian wine, fortified wine, tastes a lot like port, but it's better. Why? It's from Sicily. Pears, we peel the pear, we have cut the bottom of the pear, very simple. Now we need to core the pear. In order to core the pear, you need to have this instrument. It's something medieval looking, but it does do the job. Now, let's go at it. I want to show you how to do it. First, whoa, this pear has a mind of its own, right here. On the inside, as we go, you need to be very careful because if you're not, this little sucker will pop all the way to the other side. You want to bring it as far as you can. How do you know when to stop? Right around here is when you feel that the metal is coming, right where my thumb is at. And I can feel that it's pretty close to it. I want to take a chance and I say, that's it. All right, finally it's coming out the way we want to. And you put it back up. This is what I love about this instrument, just in case. You slide it right out and you get rid of it. This we don't need, we're not gonna eat it. In the pan, we place the pear. Once you place the pear in the pan, it becomes a very difficult recipe from here. One of those recipes that requires at least a master's degree in college. Are you kidding me? It's such a simple thing. Marsala wine, plenty of it. There you are. And then all that you need is just a touch of sugar. just a touch. No, you need a lot of sugar. Why do you need a lot of sugar? It's very important. What the sugar does together with the marsala, as they're cooking together, it creates a syrupy sauce. The syrupy sauce in which we are braising the pears is really at the core of this wonderful thing. The marsala has a big rotund body. If you don't like marsala, you can go with port. But what I propose is marsala because, in my opinion, it brings out a dimension that port does not have. Now, bring this to a boil. Once it reaches a boil, you want to lower down the heat, and then every 5 minutes, you want to go through the process of doing this. You need to braise the pear. And what happens as the marsala reduces, it becomes thicker and thicker and thicker. As the sugar engages with the marsala, it gives it the thickness that's absolutely spectacular. And what will happen is that the pear will move from this color to a deeper, richer color. The time that you want to cook it for is if you want a firm tasting pear, meaning something that has a bite to it, that cuts and has a chew to it, so to speak, al dente, if I want to use an Italian word, you are between 25-30 minutes. If you want a super soft, go between 40 to 50 minutes. But remember, you want to do this with a simmer, and you want to be doing this every 5 minutes. Now, what does it look like? Because I'm talking a great deal. I have a couple of pears that I made earlier on, and I want to show you what the color eventually will be like. And this is it. It's absolutely fantastic. It's one of those things that you look at it immediately, you fall in love with it. What do we do with these pears? We're going to let this rest. This is not a dessert that you want to serve hot. And the more you let this rest, the more you let it come to room temperature, especially the sauce, it picks up a fantastic viscosity to it. In addition, in order to honor Sicily, one of the things that we like to serve it with is a sweetened ricotta. All that you need to do is take some ricotta, your favorite brand at the store will do. What we've done with this ricotta, we put it over a strainer for just a few minutes, and what happens is the water drips out of it, and what you're left with is the thickest part of the ricotta. Ricotta is, in my opinion, one of these misunderstood greatness. In Sicily, the ricotta tastes so fantastic, especially in springtime, that the best cannolis are made, and there is nothing like a Sicilian cannoli. It accounts for 1/3 of my body weight. Trust me when I tell you. Sugar, plenty of sugar. Now, what I like to do, some people like to whip it very fast. What I like to do is using an instrument like this, a spatula, you want to press it into it and kind of let it work with it. Just let it work. Now, another ingredient which is typically of the southern Italian part of pastry making is pistachio nuts. Pistachio nuts, what we've done with the pistachio nuts, we have chopped them up. And what I'd like to do is to add it. If you're allergic to nuts, if you don't like nuts in any way, you don't have to do it. Actually, what you can do is add to it a little bit of chopped chocolate. And let me tell you, it will take this to a whole nother level. We're going to stick with the pistachio nuts. Pistacchio di Bronte is a brand of pistachios from Sicily, which is out of this world. One of these things that people go crazy over it. So let's see. Oh yeah, we're done. This thing is finished. It's already, the condiment is being executed masterfully, if I can use my own dictionary and language in this process. So we have the sweetened ricotta. The pears are finished cooking. Let me show you how to plate it, because this is a spectacle you don't want to miss. I've taken the pears out of the sauce. I've reduced the sauce a little bit more to get it nice and viscous and thick. Let me show you the thickness of it because it's splendid. This is what you're looking for when you make it at home. Splendid indeed. Now, let's go and put it over the pear because this is a money shot, as I like to call it. Look at this. This to me is fabulous. By the way, in some parts of Sicily, what they do, they thicken this up with chocolate. Dark chocolate, that would be. So the sauce is very rich. Do take it serious. The last bit that I do is adding the little bit of the sweetened ricotta that we've done before with the pistachio, nice and sweet. And here we put it right next to the ricotta, right next to the pear. The pistachio nuts make a wonderful contrast as you bite into the flesh of the pear. And a little bit of mint, just because you really don't need to have it there, but is the wonderful combination of colors, flavor, spices. There are some elements in just about anybody's culture that remind you of your past, especially for us immigrants going to another country. Some of these things bring you back. Marsala is one of them. The mint is another one of them. So here we are with pears braised in a marsala sauce. It is absolutely fabulous. It's very easy to make. And I'm convinced that quite surely soon this will become your favorite dessert. And there it is. Thank you for joining me once again. It's been an absolute delight to share with you a couple of my favorite recipes. We've done New York steak, with a vodka martini sauce, and then pairs with a marsala sauce and a little bit of sweetened ricotta as well. But before I let you go, I have to share with you a secret which I had to extract from my wife, and how to make the perfect martini. Two things you need to know. When I drink cocktails, the only cocktail I drink is a martini, and my martini is only made with vodka. However, I have gone all over the world, New York, Rome, Paris. I've had martini in some of the best bars that they exist, but no one makes it as good as my wife, Nancy. Now, the thing that's really funny is that Nancy cannot stand the taste of a martini, and yet she has the ability of making it the very best. So I say, honey, you got to give me the secret on how to do it, because I want to share it with my viewers. And she gave it to me, and she gave me specific orders on how to follow the recipe attentively. First and foremost, you start with ice. Why? I have no idea. One of the things I've learned, I do not argue with my wife. So there it goes, the ice in. Then we put 3 shots of your favorite vodka. Whatever it is that you like, you put it in. So 1, 2, 3. Away goes the vodka. Then 2 scant teaspoons of vermouth. There you go with the vermouth. Inside a glass, we have a pimento olive, and then it comes the best part. This is the shaking of the martini. Shake, 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 shake. My hands are hurting. One of the things that she told me to do is to actually use a towel to do this. You have no idea how cold the stainless steel thing gets. But anyway, here we go for the pouring of the martini, and watch what happens next. This to me is pure gold. It comes down, and immediately I know that just a couple of sips and the day is going to turn for the better. I can see my cat Luigi jumping on my lap. I can see Luca jumping as well. I find myself caressing them both. I listen to the music in the background. I look at my wife. I know I'm home. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care how rich you are. But some of the best moments in life are the moments that you spend with the people you love the most. So my name is Stellino. Nick Stellino. I might not be an action star, but this is my favorite drink, a vodka martini. From my heart to your kitchen, arrivederci e grazie. Salute. She still makes it better. Some people like gin. I like vodka. Why? Well, gin is made from vodka. It's a second distillation that takes flavor, some flavoring that's added to it. Vodka in its purest form is 95% pure. It could be made from potato, wheat, grains, even fruit for that matter. As a matter of fact, different ingredients give to the vodka a completely different flavor. I would suggest that next time you stop at your favorite liquor store, try different vodkas to get a clear sense of the flavor profile that you like. As for you martini drinkers, you can go with gin, but if you're anything like me, vodka is the only way. Welcome, I am Nick Stellino. Today we have a couple of wonderful recipes for you. As a matter of fact, we will make shrimp with garbanzo, arugula, and sun-dried tomatoes in a Chardonnay sauce. And then, oh, it's not finished. Then we're gonna do roasted shrimp with watermelon and goat cheese salad. Please, join me in the kitchen. Spicy, just right. Deborah, I will take a pound of the shrimp that you showed me.
I'll get that for you, Nick.
Thank you, appreciate it. Shrimp, I love shrimp. Shrimp is mysterious. As a matter of fact, more often than not, people make a mistake between shrimp and prawn. They're not the same thing, they're completely different. The reason why sometimes shrimps are called prawns is because the colossal shrimp, I love that name, who came up with it? Must have been a great marketer. Colossal shrimp is referred to any type of shrimp that's large enough. There's only about 10 to 11 of them maximum in a count of a pound. Colossal shrimp sometimes is referred to as a prawn, but they are not prawns. They are colossal shrimp. Thinking about this, there is colossal shrimp, there is jumbo shrimp, there is extra large shrimp, there is large shrimp, and so forth and so on. Grazie, Bella. Now, depending on the recipes that you make, you have to choose the shrimp that you want. For the grilling myself, I like to go either with colossal or jumbo because they respond to the heat a lot better and they're full of juices. And also keep this in mind. There's a difference between shrimps that are grown in cold waters and shrimps that are grown in warm water. The cold water shrimp is much smaller because they have to resist the incredible coldness of the water, but they are juicier because of the little bit of extra fat that they have in responding to the change of temperature. Warm water shrimp tend to be bigger and they're a little bit more leaner. Remember, shrimp is something that you need to cook with care because it goes from cooked to overcooked quite quickly. I have in mind an idea of something special I want to make for you. I'm going to show you to use this extra large shrimps and put them together into a recipe that will become from now on one of your favorite ones. So come with me to the kitchen. I'll show you how. Shrimp with garbanzo beans, arugula, and sun-dried tomatoes. What a sauté this is. It's wonderful. By the way, not only that, we'll make a Chardonnay sauce. You will love the way in which we make this because it's completely full of flavor and a different way to approach it. Something that involves, I'm not telling you the secret. You're gonna have to watch. You ready? Let's go at it. Now, usual situation, we want to start out and build the sauce element by element, bringing it to where ultimately will give us the greatest yield of flavor. The beginning always remains fairly simple, remains the same. And you have to remember that when we discuss